Okay, we are back. Here are your four answers. Hopefully, the problem that you picked had the answer that matches with the answers that I got for those ones. The next thing that we're going to look at is problems. Oh, excuse me. Problems that look like this. So this one is harder because we have one problem in standard form, right? Everything's on one side. And then the other problem is in standard form too. So this is trickier because there's not a clear thing that I should plug into the other one, right? This isn't solved for X. This isn't solved for Y. So I would have to do a bunch of work if I wanted to solve this with substitution, right? I'd have to like move 3y, have to divide everything by 4. All of a sudden, I have a bunch of fractions. So this problem, you can do it that way, like if you want, but it's going to take a bunch of time, and you're going to have to do a bunch of fraction math that I don't want to deal with, okay? So if you remember, we looked at another way to solve these problems, and it was called elimination. Okay, and the basic idea with elimination is like, if I just take these two equations and add them together, I can get a new equation. And if I take one of the equations and change it a little bit, I can add them together and make something go away. Okay, so when I look at these two problems, I notice I could do it with the y's, but it's going to be easier with my x values. And basically what I can do is I can take the first equation and just write it down exactly as it is. 4x minus 3y equals -2, okay? And I can take this other equation, and instead of just writing it down the way that I see it, I'm going to multiply the entire thing times -2, okay? And if I multiply the whole thing times -2, it's still going to be equal, right? Because I'm changing the two sides equally. But what we're going to see is -2 times 2x is -4x. And all of a sudden, 4x minus 4x, when I add these together, these are going to cancel, and I'm not going to have x values anymore, right? These are going to be gone, okay? But I have to do this with everything. So -2, I also have to multiply by 5y, which gives me -10y. And then over here, I'm sorry, I can't do this math in my head today. 38 times 2 is going to give us -76. Okay? And then the reason we did all that work, right, is we're basically going to take this top equation and add it to our new equation, okay? We're just going to add these things together, okay, and get one new equation. The reason we did that math before, 4x minus 4x, that's 0. That's nothing at all. -3y minus 10y is -13y. And then over here we have -78, okay? So if we do 78 divided by 13, we get 6. And it's so we're just going to divide by -13 on both sides. We get y equals 6, and a negative divided by a negative is a positive, so y equals 6, okay? Again, we're not looking for one number answer, though. We're looking for a point. And what we just found is we found the y value. We found the 6 number, okay? So be careful. Remember, the first number you find isn't always going to be x. You have to kind of like do a little bit of, first number you find doesn't go first in the ordered pair. It's like x or y, so that's where it's got to go. Okay, and then same thing as before. This part hasn't really changed. We just have to plug it back into one of our two original equations. They both look about the same to me. I might do the bottom one because there's no negatives. So if we plug into 2x plus 5y, and instead of y, I'm going to write my y value, equals 38. And then I just have to solve this. We get 30 minus 30 on both sides. We get 2x equals 8. Divide by 2, we get x equals 4. And so our final answer, the point where these two lines cross, is at 4, 6. And same thing as before, if we look at a graph, what we should see is at the point 4, 6, our two lines here, our two original lines are going to cross, right? So we can solve this problems, even when they get a little harder using elimination, kind of a different solving strategy. Okay, so we started today with an old favorite. I know how much you guys love Pick'em. We introduced a brand new instructional routine. It's a whole new way of doing math called Keep Pickin'. This next one is called Pick a Peck of Pickled Peppers, okay? So again, it's a lot like Pick'em in that it's exactly the same as Pick'em, but I made a new graphic because I was bored and I think picking noses is funny. Okay, so these are your 4 problems. Again, I'll put them up here real quick if you want to pause the video. This slide will be in the slideshow, so you can just click over to that one. Try one more of these. We've got one more video, and make sure you know all of the different ways that we talked about in skill 13. I want to keep these fresh because skill 23 kind of builds on this skill. You need to have a good foundation in this stuff so you can do the lessons we get to later this week and first thing next week. All right, guys, thanks.